Okay, this is lesson 5.3, multiplying decimals. This is page 119. The essential question is, how do you multiply decimals? And we're going to start with an Explorer activity. We're going to model decimal multiplication. It says use decimal grids or area models to find each product. And the problem is 3/10 times 5/10. And so what we're going to do here is, it says 0 and 3/10 times 0 and 5/10 represents 3/10 of 5/10. Start by shading 5 rows of the decimal grid. So I'm going to start with 5 rows here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the second part of the direction says shade 3/10 of each 1/10 that is already shaded. So basically what that means is to do these. 1, 2, 3. And you don't really have to do the whole model, because what we're looking for here is what's already double shaded. We'll finish this real quick. It says shade 3/10 of each 1/10 that's already shaded to represent 3/10 of 5/10. Blank squares are double shaded. So if you go and count these up, we've got a section of 3 by 5 that's double shaded. So that's 15 squares are double shaded. This represents 15 hundredths, or 0.15. And so the final answer here, 0.3 times 0.5, is 0 and 15 hundredths. This is the final answer to that first problem. Alright, let's go to the bottom of the page. This one's a little more complicated. 3 and 2/10 times 2 and 1/10. The directions read, use an area model. In the model, the large squares represent wholes. The small rectangles along the right and lower edges represent tenths, and the small squares at the lower right represent hundredths. The model is 3 and 2/10 units long and 2 and 1/10 unit wide. The area of the model is, and then they just want you to count it. And if you do what it says, you count up the holes, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes. How many tenths are there? This is a tenth. So I've counted 3 so far. 4, 5, 6, 7. I count 7 tenths. And how many hundredths? The little ones over here are the hundredths. 1, 2. I count 2 of those. So what's the answer? Well, 6 holes would be a 6 in the whole number. 7 tenths would be a 7 in the tenths. And 2 hundredths would be a 2 in the hundredths. And that's the answer. Now to some kids that doesn't seem right, so let's just check it on a calculator. 3 and 2/10 times 2 and 1/100th is 6 and 72 hundredths. So that is correct. Now some kids have a question, well, why is that? And we're going to talk about that. Let's go ahead and check out the reflect. This is where you might draw a conclusion about how to do this. Number 1, the reflect reads, analyze relationships. How are the products 2.1 times 3.2 and 21 times 32 alike, and how are they different? So let's pretend we were asked to do 32 times 21. 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 3 is 3. And I'm going to put a 0 here. 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 3 is 6. I'm going to add those up. 2, 7, and something is wrong. 3 times 2 right here should never have been 3. It should have been 6. So right here I did 2 times 3 and I got 6. So when I add these up, I get 672. So do you remember just a minute ago when we punched into the calculator 3.2 times 2.1? Do you remember what we got? When we punched it into a calculator, we got 6.72. Look at these two numbers, 672. And then 6 and 72 hundredths. Did you notice that it's all the same digits? 6, 7, and 2. It's all the same digits. So the question says, how are they alike? How are they different? They are alike in that they have the same digits. It also says, how are they different? So we're going to say, but they have different values. And what I mean by the different values is, the first digit in the answer is 6, but that's 600. And the first digit in this answer is 6, but it's 6 in the whole number, so it's 6 ones. And this is 7 as in 70, and this is 7 as in 7 tenths. And this is 2 as in 2 whole, and this is 2 as in 2 hundredths. So they're alike in that they're the same digits, but they're different in that they have different values. Alright, good job. You're done with page 119.